I, 41-year-old female, have a 15-year-old daughter. Let's call her Beth, with my husband. On the weekends or after work during the week, we primarily use public transportation. Most of the time, Beth rides with us on the bus. She refuses to sit next to us in normal teenage fashion and prefers to sit as far away from us as possible. She also has a bad habit of putting earphones in and zoning out, not paying attention to our bus stop. Therefore, my husband and I have to squeeze through the packed bus and get her attention so she gets off the bus with us. We've had talks with her about how dangerous it is to be completely unaware of your surroundings, especially on a public bus. However, she refuses to pay attention to the bus stops or sit closer to us so we can easily get her attention. Additionally, she has been asking us for more freedom. She wants to spend a paycheck on her own bus pass, which we are seriously considering for certain bus routes at certain times. However, we are hesitant due to the fact that she does not pay attention, which could easily become a problem. That brings us to Saturday when we got on the bus. Beth chose to sit in the very back while I sat at the front. The bus was unusually empty that day, and I got an idea. The next bus stop was the stop in front of our house, so I exited the bus, but Beth did not. She wasn't paying any attention. Immediately after, I booked it down the road to the next stop, the bus terminal, and met the bus there. I was prepared to board again to get her, but she exited. She was angry, saying that I had abandoned her on the bus and that she was terrified when she looked up and didn't see me there. I apologized for scaring her, but explained how dangerous it is to not pay any attention to what's going on around you. I told my husband at home and he agreed that it was a justified lesson to teach. When Beth went to her grandparents' house, my parents, and told them and a few of my sisters about the incident, they called me a jerk. Our side, Beth wants her own city bus pass, but when we ride with her, we have issues getting her to pay attention and stick with us. I left her on the bus at the second to last stop of a bus route that I knew was guaranteed to stop at the terminal, and I booked it there. She was not alone for more than 4 minutes on a bus that had very few people on it, and I was pretty confident she would get off at the stop, as it's our usual. This was a last resort after my husband and I have had several talks about being safe in public and being responsible. My daughter/parents/sister's side. I left my young daughter on a public bus by herself and did not tell her that she was going to be alone. It was cruel to punish her by leaving. I should have resorted to other methods that did not involve me getting off the bus without her. Anything could have happened in the 4 minutes she was alone, and it was completely irresponsible to leave her. So, am I the idiot for leaving my 15-year-old daughter on the bus? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It seems like I'm in the minority, but I think you are the jerk. You've established a routine where you always tell her to get off the bus. With no warning, you stop that. Her experience is in paying attention to when you go to her to get off, not in watching her surroundings. If you don't think she's responsible enough for a bus pass, then teach her to be responsible enough. Beth, if you want your own bus pass, you have to show me that you can be independent and safe. Next time we ride the bus, I'm not going to tell you when to get off. You need to pay attention on your own. And try that a few times. Maybe if it's a 20-minute ride, teach her to set a timer for 16 minutes to stop listening to music and looking around. Comment 2. 15 is a totally reasonable age to have your own bus pass, and you should absolutely get her one. I understand your concern about her lack of awareness, but that's exactly why she should start managing her own commute. She needs to learn how to manage herself, how to recognize her surroundings, and how to handle herself when she inevitably misses a stop or takes the wrong bus and ends up lost. I get the concern about safety, but honestly, if she can't be trusted sitting idle on a bus, then she sure as hell can't be trusted driving a car. Not the idiot. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. It's been a tense 2 weeks since I last posted. After the bus incident, Beth gave me the silent treatment for a few days. She was really upset and felt like I had betrayed her trust. I tried to explain my reasoning again, but she wasn't having it. My husband and I decided to give her some space to cool off. A few days later, Beth came to us and apologized for not paying attention on the bus. She admitted that she had been too absorbed in her music and hadn't been aware of her surroundings. We had a long talk about safety and responsibility, and she seemed to understand where we were coming from. However, the next weekend, we had another incident. We were on the bus and Beth was sitting in the back as usual. When our stop came up, I tried to get her attention, but she was completely zoned out. We ended up missing our stop and had to walk back from the next one. Beth was embarrassed and apologetic, but I could tell she was still struggling with paying attention. That's when I remembered something from my own teenage years. When I was around Beth's age, I had a similar issue with not paying attention to my surroundings. My mom had to resort to some pretty drastic measures to get me to snap out of it. She would intentionally leave me behind in stores or restaurants, forcing me to find my own way back to her. It was scary at the time, but it definitely taught me a lesson. I decided to try a similar approach with Beth. The next time we were on the bus, I told her that I was going to get off at the next stop and that she needed to pay attention and get off with me. She nodded and put her earphones away. When the stop came up, I got off the bus and waited for her to follow. But she didn't. The bus pulled away with Beth still on it. I felt a moment of panic, but I knew I had to stick to the plan. I ran to the next stop and waited for the bus to arrive. When it did, I saw Beth getting off, looking confused and a little scared. I walked up to her and explained what had happened. She was angry at first, but then she realized that she had missed the stop because she wasn't paying attention. We had another long talk about safety and responsibility, and this time, it seemed to sink in. Beth started sitting closer to us on the bus and making an effort to pay attention to the stops. She even started reminding us when our stop was coming up. But the real test came last weekend when we decided to let Beth ride the bus alone for the first time. She wanted to go to the mall with some friends, and we agreed to let her take the bus there and back. I was nervous, but I knew she had been making progress. When she got home that evening, she was beaming with pride. She told us how she had paid attention to every stop and had even helped an elderly woman who was confused about where to get off. I was so proud of her and felt like all the tough love had paid off. Looking back, I realized that my own experiences as a teenager had a big impact on how I handled the situation with Beth. I remembered how scary it was to be left behind, but also how effective it was in teaching me to pay attention. I'm glad I was able to draw on those experiences to help Beth learn a valuable lesson. Of course, there are still challenges ahead. Beth is a teenager after all, and there will always be distractions and temptations. But I feel like we've made real progress in teaching her to be responsible and aware of her surroundings. And who knows, maybe one day she'll be the one teaching her own kids these same lessons. Thanks again for reading and for all your support and advice. It means a lot to know that we're not alone in navigating these parenting challenges. Am I the idiot for refusing to share my late mother's belongings with my half-sister from my dad's affair? I, 30-year-old female, have a half-sister, 23-year-old female, who will be getting married sometime in 2025. My half-sister is my dad's child. She's actually the child he had after an affair while married to my mom. My parents divorced when my mom learned that dad had cheated on her, and things became more tense after she found out that the person he cheated with had gotten pregnant. My dad told her that the other woman was out of the picture and my mom could have the second child she always wanted, and we could be a family. I was there for part of the conversation because Dad wanted me to be excited for a sibling and thought it would win my mom over. My mom stood firm with Dad. Dad would tell my half-sister that we had the same mom. He'd talk like that around me and tell me to shut it when I told him to stop lying. He also told me Mom could be a kind person and step up for a child who had no mother, according to him. The affair partner found someone else to be the affair partner of and didn't want to know my half-sister. When I was 11, my mom died, so I went to live with Dad. About a year later, Dad got married. But even after he got married, he taught my half-sister that my mom was her mom. I'll say that whatever hope we had of a relationship was ended by my dad doing this, because she wouldn't believe me when I told her she had a different mom, and she hated me for not giving her photos and stuff of moms, and for not making my family acknowledge her as their granddaughter, like I was acknowledged. My dad's wife never became a mom to my half-sister, even though she admitted to desperately wanting one because she was so hung up on my mom. Mom left me everything, and my grandparents took care of the stuff for me until I became independent. I wore some of Mom's wedding jewelry on my wedding day, as well as her veil. I didn't invite my dad or any of his family, including my half-sister, but she saw photos. So she reached out to me on social media and told me she wanted some of Mom's stuff for her wedding, and I said no. She told me now is not the time to be selfish, and I told her she's entitled to nothing and she'll have to find other things to wear. She called me names and I told her dad should have admitted the truth to her by now. She said she didn't know why I was so adamant she wasn't mom's kid, and it's not fair because I got to be raised by mom for 11 years while she got nothing and for no reason at all. Afterward, my dad's wife reached out and told me how upset my half-sister was and asked me to please consider giving something because dad really messed her over, and she feels hated by mom and by me. My half-sister messaged again after this and told me I was being really unfair to her and how I made mom's abandonment of her even worse. Am I the idiot? ETA, making it clear. My mom never met my half-sister, and vice versa. My mom did not want to meet her or be in her life. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. It's best if you do not lend her any of your mom's things as there's a high chance that you'll never see them again. It's unfortunate that your dad lied to her for so many years, but she is old enough to understand the situation now. It is not your responsibility to heal wounds that you did not make. Comment 2, not the idiot, but has she never seen her birth certificate? Surely her mother is named on there. I second what a lot of people are saying. Tell her if she gets a DNA test proving you are maternal siblings, then you will share some of your mother's stuff with her. Since that's impossible, she will have to face facts. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all your support. It's been a busy 3 months since I last updated you on the situation with my half-sister and our family drama. So a few weeks after my last post, my half-sister reached out to me again. This time, she was more apologetic and said she realized that she had been unfair to me. She acknowledged that our dad had lied to her for years about who her mother was and that it wasn't right for her to expect me to give her my mom's things. I was surprised but relieved to hear her say this, and I thought maybe we could start to build a better relationship. But then things took a turn. My half-sister confessed that she had been going through a really tough time lately. She said that her fiancé had been cheating on her and that she had caught him in the act. She was devastated and didn't know what to do. I felt terrible for her and tried to be there for her as much as I could. As we talked more, I learned that my half-sister had been struggling with depression and anxiety for years. She had never really dealt with the trauma of growing up without a mother and feeling rejected by our family. I started to see her in a different light and realized that a lot of her behavior towards me had been a result of her own pain and confusion. I decided to try to help her in any way I could. I invited her over to my house and we spent a lot of time talking and getting to know each other better. I even introduced her to some of my friends and family members who welcomed her with open arms. But then I made a mistake. In an effort to help my half-sister feel more connected to our family, I gave her one of my mom's old necklaces. It wasn't anything too special, just a simple gold chain with a small pendant. But as soon as I handed it to her, I realized that I had crossed a line. My half-sister was thrilled to have the necklace and started wearing it all the time. But then my dad's wife found out about it and was furious. She accused me of trying to replace her as my half-sister's mother figure and said that I had no right to give away my mom's things. I tried to explain that I was just trying to help my half-sister feel more included, but it was too late. The damage had been done. My dad's wife stopped speaking to me and my half-sister, and the tension in our family was worse than ever. Looking back, I realized that I should have been more careful about giving away my mom's things. I was so focused on trying to make my half-sister feel better that I didn't stop to think about how it might affect everyone else. I should have talked to my dad's wife first and made sure she was okay with it. But despite the mistake, I don't regret trying to build a relationship with my half-sister. We've both been through a lot, and we need each other's support. I'm hopeful that with time and patience, we can work through this and become closer as a family. Thanks for reading and for all your advice and support. It means a lot to me. Am I the idiot for refusing to take in my half-sister after our father's death and our grandparents' harassment? My parents' marriage ended 5 years ago when my mom found out my dad was cheating on her and got the other woman pregnant. Dad didn't want his cheating to end the marriage, and he offered not to be in the baby's life if mom would stay, or he offered to find a way for them to raise the baby together. Dad tried to rope my siblings, 17-year-old male and 15-year-old female, and me, 18-year-old female, into his little shit show and was disappointed when we all said no. I stopped seeing Dad after that because I told the courts I wanted my mom to have custody. My siblings saw Dad for a couple of years before they could declare a lack of interest in going, and the courts listened. In that time, Dad had moved in with the affair partner, but tried to use my siblings to get Mom and him back together. They didn't want that to happen, and Mom was furious at him for using the kids. His youngest daughter was born around that time. I never met her, but my siblings did, though they never formed a relationship with her. Dad's affair partner left and hasn't been a part of his daughter's life since. Dad died 14 weeks ago. His daughter went to live with my paternal grandparents, who we don't really see because they were angry at Mom for the divorce and felt we were too hard on Dad, who didn't just cheat, but tried to use his kids to keep his marriage together. Like a week after my dad's death, my paternal grandparents reached out to Mom and asked her to raise Dad's daughter as her own. My mom said no, and that should have been the end. But it wasn't. And it is bordering on harassment now, but it isn't there yet, according to the officer and lawyer Mom spoke to. My paternal grandparents went on a character assassination of Mom and told her that if she doesn't take their granddaughter, this poor little girl will grow up with no parents and no siblings because clearly we have no intention of being there for her. They told Mom their granddaughter should be part of mine and my siblings, family and life, and we should be part of hers. Mom said that she wasn't going to force us, and she told them it did not mean she would raise her late ex-husband's child from his affair. They called my mom selfish, heartless, evil, spawn of the devil, and all kinds of insults. It has been going on for weeks. My mom has blocked them, but they always find another way to contact her. I reached the end of my rope when they started publicly talking about my mom letting her children's half-siblings go into foster care, and how heartless she was because she told everyone we wanted her with us. I confronted them and told them to frick right off and stop trying to make Mom responsible for their cheating son's kid. I said he was a terrible person, and Mom did not have to do a thing for his child, and they had zero right to harass her to take responsibility. They were so offended and angry and told me I had no right to be so disrespectful to them. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, but I feel so sad for your half-sister. I know you were impacted horribly by your father's selfishness, but I can't imagine the damage his actions are also causing this little girl. The grandparents need to step up. They are also damaging her by highlighting the fact that no one wants her. Comment 2. Not the idiot, and it sounds like your dad's parents needed to hear the cold hard truth. The only devil's spawn in this situation is their own son, so guess what that makes them? If the poor child's own mother or mother's family doesn't want her either, sadly, foster care is the best option. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all your support. It's been a tough few months since then, and I wanted to give you an update on what's been happening. After I confronted my paternal grandparents about harassing my mom to take in my late father's child from his affair, things took a turn for the worse. They were furious with me for standing up to them and started spreading rumors about our family and their community. They painted my mom as a heartless woman who abandoned her own grandchild, and they made it seem like we were all terrible people for not wanting to be a part of the little girl's life. The rumors started affecting my mom's work life, as some of her colleagues and clients heard the gossip and began treating her differently. She was devastated and felt like she couldn't escape the judgment and criticism no matter where she went. It got so bad that she started considering moving to a different town just to get away from it all. Meanwhile, my siblings and I were dealing with our own struggles. My brother, who had always been close to our dad, despite everything, was having a hard time processing his death and the fact that he had a half-sister he barely knew. He started acting out at school and getting into fights, which was completely out of character for him. My sister, on the other hand, retreated into herself and stopped talking to anyone outside of our immediate family. I tried my best to be there for them while also dealing with my own grief and anger. I couldn't believe that my grandparents, who had always been so loving and supportive, could turn on us like this. It felt like a betrayal, and I didn't know how to move past it. Things came to a head when my grandparents showed up at our house one day demanding to see us. They had the little girl with them and insisted that we needed to be a part of her life. My mom tried to reason with them, but they wouldn't listen. They started yelling and causing a scene, and I finally lost my temper. I told them that they had no right to force this on us and that we had already made our decision. I said that if they really cared about the little girl, They would focus on giving her a stable and loving home instead of trying to guilt us into being a part of her life. I also reminded them that our dad had hurt our family deeply with his actions and that we needed time to heal from that. My grandparents were stunned by my outburst, but they finally seemed to realize that they had crossed a line. They left without saying another word, and we haven't heard from them since. The fallout from that confrontation has been difficult to deal with. My mom is still struggling with the rumors and the damage they've done to her reputation, and my siblings and I are trying to find our way forward without our dad or our grandparents in our lives. Looking back, I realized that there were signs of trouble in our family long before my dad's affair came to light. He had always been a bit of a charmer, but he could also be manipulative and selfish when he didn't get his way. I remember one time when I was a kid, he promised to take me to a baseball game for my birthday, but then canceled at the last minute because he had a work thing come up. It was a small thing, but it stuck with me because it felt like he was always putting his own needs before ours. I also think about how my mom must have felt all those years, trying to hold our family together while my dad was off doing who knows what. She never let on how much she was hurting, but I can only imagine the toll it must have taken on her. In the end, I know that we made the right decision by not taking in my half-sister, as much as it pains me to say it. We needed to focus on our own healing and moving forward as a family, and taking on that responsibility would have been too much for us to handle. I'm not sure what the future holds for us, but I do know that we'll face it together as a family. We've been through so much already, and we've come out stronger on the other side. I just hope that someday we can find a way to forgive my dad and my grandparents for the hurt they've caused us, even if we can never forget. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks again for all your support and for listening to my story. It means more than you know. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.